Hey guys, I'm Becca and I'm going to be talking with you about hard of hearing today. So, what is hard of hearing? The definition is that it's individuals who suffer from hearing loss, and that can range from mild to severe. So, really, any sort of hearing loss could be categorized into being hard of hearing. And hearing loss can affect one ear or both the ears, just depends on the case. And if you have hearing loss in one ear or both ears, it still can be hard of hearing. Like I said before, it can be mild to profound. There's no certain amount of hearing loss you need to be considered hard of hearing. And for people who are hard of hearing, it might be hard for them to follow conversations because it's harder for them to hear, especially when it's like in a noisy environment, because it's harder for them to focus on just like the one voice. So some of the causes of hearing loss, there can be many different causes. These are some of the most common. Age-related changes. As we grow old, as we grow old, our pathway in our ear can change, and it makes it harder for us to hear. And long exposure to loud noises, if we're constantly listening to loud stuff like earbuds all the time on max volume, or people who might have worked in a loud factory for a long period of time, can have hearing loss. Severe ear infections. These ear infections can be caused by viruses or bacteria, and if it's severe enough, it can lead to fluid buildup in the ear, causing hearing loss. Genetic variations, sometimes in people's genes, it will cause them to experience hearing loss as they age. Genetic syndromes, such as Down syndrome. If a child is born with Down syndrome, they might have some hearing loss related with Down syndrome. And just damage of the ear. There's sensorineural hearing loss, and that occurs from just damage of the inner ear. So here's a little Venn diagram photo that I think really helps explain types of hearing loss. We see on sensorineural, aging, noise damage, drug side effects, even chemicals can damage your ear, auditory tumors, and a blast explosion will damage the ear. Then conductive, fluid, like I said, from the ear infection, foreign objects, allergies, ruptured eardrums, or impacted earwax. And then mixed, which is kind of both, genetic disorders, infections, or head trauma. So some possible solutions or different things that can make life easier for people who have hard of hearing are hearing aids. I actually recently got the opportunity to visit Starkey in Minneapolis, and it's like one of the biggest manufacturers of hearing aids, and there we learned how to fit hearing aids, and it was a really cool experience. And it's just like it's like a computerized thing right here, and the tube goes into your ear, and the mold in your ear is like that you get it molded to your exact ear so you can hear better. And you can either turn it up or down. There's different levels of hearing aids, like levels 1 through 4, depending on how severe your hearing loss is. There are cochlear implants, and those are mainly used in deaf cases, but also could be for extreme hearing loss. It has to be surgical because it goes all the way through your ear, and you have in the surgery they put something like a magnet-ish right here in your head, and the cochlear implant, it will stick to the side of your head, and then it goes into your ear and allows you to hear. It helps make out the sound waves within your ear. And then captioning on videos can be really helpful for them, because also right below it is lip reading. They can lip read what people are saying in the video, and if it gets lost or something, you can just read the caption, and it can be a lot easier. And then lip reading, like in conversations, it's really important that you remain eye contact with the person. You're not like looking around, looking down, because then they can't really read your lips. But the eye contact, body language, making sure you're enunciating your words can really help for the person to understand what's going on in the conversation. And some people may use ASL to help communicate with others. And then this is a hearing aid versus a cochlear implant. The hearing aid is on the left and the cochlear is on the right. As you can tell, the cochlear has that disc I was talking about that sticks on your head, while the hearing aid just sits right on top of your ear, like that. So some statistics about hard of hearing. 15% of our country's population is considered hard of hearing. It's a pretty big percentage, and studies show that this percentage may even go higher up as time goes on. And out of 1,000 births, 2 to 3 of those babies being born are born with hearing loss, either deaf or some form of hearing loss. And about 15% of children that are 12 to 19 have some degree of hearing loss. So the 15% is a pretty good size statistic, so that probably means sometime in your teaching career you will have a student who is hard of hearing. So it's important to know about the impact on the classroom that a student that has hard of hearing may experience. Difficulty following lectures might be hard for them because they might not be able to see you very visually, or you might be too far away, or they just are getting confused and everything. Like I said, noisy environments are hard for them. So if the class is getting noisy, they may have a more difficult time understanding what's going on in the lecture. Hard to understand verbal directions. So if you as a teacher are trying to give them a direction and you're just like kind of saying it like, oh, go sit down, and you're not looking at them, they might not know that you're talking to them, or they might just not hear you and you can just get lost in all the other sounds going on in the classroom. So it's important to be intentional in your verbal directions. Difficulty in small group settings, because in a small group, typically in the classroom, the children are very excited to be with their friends and they kind of talk over each other, many people talking at once, and that can be hard for a person who has hard of hearing to follow, to hear what voice is coming from who is saying what, and it's just hard to follow and like hear every single point each student is trying to say. And they might be nervous in speaking out in a classroom discussion because they may not understand like what's going on. They don't want to risk being wrong and sounding like they don't know what they're talking about. Or sometimes people who have hard of hearing from birth may have a speech impediment, or their voice may sound different, so they might be shy to share out in the classroom. And understanding nuances in speech, so maybe like sarcasm or slang, they might not understand that right away. And then keeping up with rapid speech, so if you're teaching and you're trying to go really fast because you're like running out of time on an assignment, that might be hard for them because they have to try extra hard to listen. And if you're going too fast, they can feel left behind and altogether tune out. And that goes with feeling burnt out. These children have to try so much hard to listen than the average student. So eventually, if they've had a long day or they're tired, they might just like be burnt out and not want to listen for the rest of the day because they've already been putting 110% effort to do their best to listen in class, and they just feel burnt out. So for that not to happen, that burnout and that stress for the students, we want to make sure we are accommodating these students. So one accommodation that I believe is becoming more popular these days is assistive listening devices. So these are like FM systems that amplify sound for the whole classroom. I was recently in a classroom that the teacher had some sort of like microphone around her neck, and she would click a button and it just rested on her neck like a necklace. And in like the kind of sound system in her room, her voice would come out of the sound system, so her voice was much louder for the students. So that would definitely help a student who had hearing loss because they can just hear you louder and it's clear, it's coming over the sound system. And just for at your average student, because the teacher's voice is loud, causing them to pay more attention to you. And this also goes with assistive listening devices, personal microphones to amplify sounds for the students. So they have like their own listening device that they can listen to. And then captioned media, if you're going to show anything in class and you know you have a student who's hard of hearing, make sure you have your captions on, because a lot of time in videos, it might be like an infographic, so there's no lip reading, or the speakers in whatever device you're showing it from may be muddy, so having captions are essential for them to really grasp what the video is trying to say. And preferential seating, so this might be sitting closer to the front, it might be sitting closer to the speaker, it might be them getting to change their seat depending on what the activity entails, so they can get the best of it and be able to hear it. And also giving them more time on assignments or tests, so they have more time to dive into whatever this task is requiring of them, and they can make sure they're doing their best work. And also a sign language interpreter if they have severe hearing loss, that's there with them in the classroom, interpreting what you say so in a language they can understand more clearly. And here are my sources. I really hope you guys enjoy my presentation, that you learned a lot from it. I know that we can all use this in our classrooms eventually, and it's essential to learn more about. So thank you. Have a